Hi, this is Tom Painter, and this is the Money Made Easy class for adults. Now, if you haven't watched the Money Made Easy class for young adults, I highly recommend you do it because we're covering different subjects and adding more complexity to it as we go. And it's really great if you understand the basics because that's what's most important. So I'm going to teach you how to make money and how to make it grow, and more importantly, how to keep it. The question is, if you could only give your children one thing, money or knowledge, what would you give them? And of course, people would say, well, I'd give them the knowledge. And that's great. But if you add experience to that, then you've changed their life. So we need to have experiential knowledge with money. That's the goal. Now, if you could start over and do it all over again, what would you do differently? Did your parents teach you about money? Were you good at money? Did you learn about money in school? Did you take any classes about money? It's kind of funny, but this is something that we're going to deal with every day of our life. But we don't really have any classes about it. All we have is what our parents teach us, and we need to hear it from another source. In a recent survey, they found out that 78% of the people watching TV sitcoms could name characters off the TV sitcoms, but only about 12% had any idea what a load mutual fund or a no-load fund was. 63% know the difference between a halfback and a quarterback, but only 14% know the difference between a growth stock and an income stock. Our education system is set up for failure. We need to teach you about money, and otherwise the cycle of illiteracy just goes on and on and on. So there's 3 steps we're going to get into. Number 1, we want to teach you how to invest for yourself. We're going to teach you about financial freedom accounts, investment accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and 401ks, and it's really not that hard to understand, but I'm going to help you figure all that out. We're going to teach you about investing and how to be able to have $1 million net worth or more. You're going to have $1 million net worth in the future because of inflation. My dad taught me that some people make so much money off their investments, their small businesses, and their real estate that they don't have a job. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into this, and we're going to look at how much money you need to set aside every month in order to have $1 million net worth. Now, this is assuming a very aggressive 10% rate of return. And as we've learned in previous classes, if that rate of return is much less, 5 or 6%, then that could quadruple or 4 to 5 times some of the amounts of money that you need. But in this example, a 15-year-old only needs $58 down in the bottom left-hand corner. A 30-year-old only needs around $263 because they have a long time for their investments to go up. And if it isn't going up at a 10% rate, that's great. Now, the problem is most people are not getting a 10% rate of return. Most of the people are getting a very low rate of return, and they don't have much of their money working for them, if any at all. And so our goal is to teach you how to put this on autopilot. That's very crucial. And the biggest piece is that we want to be able to have your account, take money out of your checking account every month and put it over into your investment account. And like I said in other classes, the S&P 500 is where I would put it. After 44 years of investing, or I started investing with my dad when I was very young, I would tell you to put it into Berkshire Hathaway stock. Berkshire Hathaway has actually beat the S&P 500 the vast majority of time. It's one of the very few that have. And of course, the S&P 500 outdoes the majority of mutual funds, where you have professional manager managing your money for you. Some years the stock goes up, some years it goes down, but over a long period of time. And again, 10% might be very aggressive for that. And some years it just doesn't go anywhere. Some years it goes down and then it pops up. All I know is that 20 years ago, stock was a lot less than it is today, and 20 years from now, it's going to be a lot more. Now, setting up your investment account is very simple. You make your money. Money's coming in. You dump that money into your bank account. From that bank account, you need to give some of it away. You need to take some of it to be able to spend. But most importantly is every month, automatically, it needs to take right out of your bank account and drop into your investment account. Make the decision one time, set it up with your bank and say, every month I want $250 a month or $300 a month or whatever it is. Take it, move it out of my checking account and over here to a Fidelity or a Schwab or someone else to invest that money. They can buy Berkshire Hathaway for you every month. They can buy the S&P 500 for you every month. It's really not that hard. And, to set up an investment account, just like when you go to the bank, you're opening up a checking account, you're loaning money to the bank. You can open up an investment account with Schwab or Fidelity, ING, any of these. And what they do is the difference is that they're just going to buy little pieces of companies or mutual funds that own little pieces of company. Now, the world of investment to many people has just become confusing because they've made it so hard. I'm going to teach you it's very, very simple. There's no load funds. The difference on that is that a load is that when you buy it, the stockbroker is going to charge you an extra commission on it. Sometimes it can be very small, 2 to 3%. Sometimes it can be 4 or 5%. No load is they're not going to charge you anything, but they are going to charge you monthly money under management. So there's two things. One is when you buy it, they get a commission, or not. If it's a no load, no commission. But every company is going to have money under management. So if you have $100 under management and they're charging you 1%, then they're going to charge you $1 for that just to manage it. The S&P, as we've talked about, is 500 largest U.S. companies that are global. McDonald's, I've seen McDonald's everywhere. I've been around the world twice. Coca-Cola's everywhere. I've been just everywhere. China, doesn't matter. It's everywhere. Starbucks. So that's what the S&P 500 is. And I want to make sure that you go back to the previous class because we go into great detail into that. Annuities is when you're going to get a chunk of money every month. IRAs, municipal bonds. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But the big thing for me is after all these years of investing, so if I was going to give you some advice, and I didn't have much time to be able to do it, is that there's three major ways to invest in the stock market. One is just buy individual stocks. You're picking a stock. The challenge with that is you get a hot tip from a friend or a neighbor and the stock goes down and you get disgusted and you walk away. Two, you get very fearful of what's going on in the marketplace. Warren Buffett is great for saying, I want some chaos in the marketplace because that's when I get great deals. And so he has a very different attitude towards it. When are you selling your stock? Well, I'm going to sell it in 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Well, good. I want it to go down. I want to buy more of it. I want to buy it when it's on sale. So there's three ways that you can really do your long-term investing. One is to buy and sell your own individual stocks, which I don't recommend. Number two is to buy a mutual fund. And a mutual fund is where a professional manager picks and chooses the different stocks or companies that's in that fund. And he's the one that's choosing it. If it's a growth fund, he says that it's going to grow. If it's a value fund, he's saying, hey, the stocks we're buying is undervalued. If it's an income fund, he says, hey, these kick off income every year, so this is what we like. If it's a real estate fund, then he's buying real estate. The challenge with that is that there are fees that are associated that you got to pay the manager to manage your money. And so that's what you would call a mutual fund. And the problem with that is that by the time you add the extra fees to it, you're probably better off just buying the 500 biggest companies. The 500 biggest companies are all international companies. They're companies that do business all around the world. And so the difference is that the fees are very small because they're not buying and selling different companies. They're saying, hey, these are the 500 biggest. We're just going to buy those. If you buy that, you're owning a little bit of the 500 biggest companies. Some years it goes up, some years it goes down. But over time, most of them will go up because of inflation. Inflation in America and the world. The United States government brings in $2 trillion a year in income, in taxes. The problem is it spends $3 trillion. So it has to borrow money, and as a result, it's basically printing money. It's forcing inflation. If you don't own something, it's inflated. If you own something, then you appreciate it, so it's appreciation. But in this example, we're going to say it's 10%. Now, my favorite company, of course, is Berkshire Hathaway. And it's an insurance company that owns a lot of companies. And it brings in revenue today on an insurance claim. It pays it out next year, but it has the use of that money for a year, for example. And it makes a profit on the premiums it writes, but more importantly, it gets to use that money while it's sitting on it. And there's $105 billion in cash that they have to buy investments with. And so that's why I like that so much. And so if you take those in order, and I said you can only buy one thing, you can't change it, you can't look at it, you're going to make a decision today and you can't touch it for 10 years, I tell you to buy Berkshire Hathaway. And then after that, I would say put some in the S&P 500. And then after that, you might put a little bit into some different mutual funds if you feel that way. And maybe a small percentage of money into different stocks that you think are just going to take off. But you're speculating on the stocks. Okay, now the next piece is, do you need a tax deduction this year? We've talked a little bit about retirement accounts. And here's just an example of that. This is an individual retirement account. And again, I highly recommend that you go into the previous classes. And we're also going to teach other classes on real estate, the stock market. We're going to get into more detail on that in future classes. But a big piece for most people is they have a job. And as a job, they have the ability to put money into an individual retirement account. In this example, you made a salary of $50,000, and you're reporting that to the IRS. If you put that into an IRA, and you say, we're going to put $3,000 into the IRA, you've reduced the money that you're telling the government you made. You made $50,000, but we get a tax deduction of $3,000. So that means we only have to pay taxes on the $47,000. Now the benefit is that you can get a tax deduction today. But the problem is you got to pay taxes on all that money when you take it out. And that's not much fun. So the other option is to open up a Roth IRA. Now Roth IRA was named after a congressman by the name of Roth. And it works this way. You made a $50,000 salary, you report $50,000 to the IRS, and we are not getting any tax deduction today. We're not taking any tax deduction on it. And the benefit is that when you retire, you're not going to pay taxes on any of the money. The challenge, you don't get a tax deduction today, but I would rather have a big chunk of money later and not have to pay any taxes on it. The next one's how to get 100% return on your money. Some employers have a 401k, and they'll match up to 3% of your salary. So if you are making money, you're getting a 3%. You can put 3% of it away of your salary into your retirement account. And some companies, these are going away kind of quickly. They will match that same 3%, which basically means you got 100% return on your money. Here's the example of that. You made $50,000. That's before the 401k. Down below it says after the 401k. You're contributing $1,500. You've reduced how much money you tell the IRS you made. That's your adjusted gross income. The company match was $1,500. So basically, we got $3,000 to work for us. That's the benefit. The negative is you got to pay taxes on it, but you double the money going in. So most people, I would recommend that if there is a 401k, match to as much as they're going to give you. If they're matching 3%, put 3%, get that 100% match. And then put the rest of the money into a Roth IRA is where I put it. Okay. So as you look at this is the difference in all of those. The investment account, you got to pay a bunch of taxes on it when you retire. The IRA, you got to pay taxes on it. The Roth IRA, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. You don't get a benefit today, but you get a big chunk of money that you don't have to pay taxes on. And of course, the 401k, the big bonus to that is that you're getting more money working for you. So most people, I'd recommend they put it in the 401k up to the match. If they match 2%, go up to that amount, and then put the rest of it into a Roth IRA. Okay. Now step number 2 is to decrease your cash outflow and increase your cash inflow. And the way we do that is that we've got to look at our living expenses and our financial expenses, our tax savings, and of course, we want to work on our financial offense. Financial defense is anytime you write a check. Financial offense is anytime that you get a check. Anytime we write you a check, we're scoring, we're making money. So every dollar of income is either saved and invested or spent and consumed. So when you bring a dollar in your life, you have to decide either I'm going to save and invest it or I'm going to spend and consume it. So where does all your money go? Most people just stick their head in the sand. They don't know, they don't dare look. But all of us have expenses. We have insurance, we have food, entertainment, credit cards, communications, medical, apparel, housing, taxes. We all have expenses. The goal is to figure out how to reduce those and get more money into our long-term investment accounts. So this is what most people look like, is the vast majority of money is coming in and going out into those expenses. And so it's all going down into things that are basically flushing money down the toilet. Cars go down in value, taxes just go to the government, it's just gone. What we want to put more over on the left side, which is to the investments, the savings, and building equity in our homes and building up our investment accounts. Budgets don't work. Basically, you need a simple system for tracking your income and expenses. And in the previous class, in the young adult class, I showed you how to do all of that on one piece of paper, how to manage all your money on one piece of paper. Now, we want to reduce your expenses by 20% and invest the savings. That's our big goal. How do you do that? So if we could do that and we could get more money on the investment side, that would be great. Most people have no money going on the investment side. The real goal is to put at least 20% in there. So what are the things really cost, and what are you spending money on that you probably shouldn't have? I had a young man that smoked, and I could smell you smoking, and I could just, I said, well, I know you don't care about your health, but how much is it really costing you? And in this example, let's say that it was $4, which is very low. That's more of a casual smoker. But he spends about $720 a year just in cigarettes. If you would have taken that money and invested it instead of spending it, going up in smoke and investing it, it'd be worth another $350,000 to him. Alcohol, for example, $100 a week is $4,800 a year. That's $2.3 million over a 40-year period of time. $250, and again, it doesn't matter what you're spending it on. Cable TV, mortgage, it doesn't matter. It's gone. For example, if you're spending $12,000 a year on stuff that you probably shouldn't, well, it's $5.8 million. So most people would have the ability to be multimillionaires if they did not spend the money, but they invested in different things. Now, carrying a credit card, the problem with that is it increases your spending by about 20% because you don't have any pain of actually taking the money out and paying for it in 10s and 20s. So how much money do you spend on a credit card? They found that if you, instead of using a credit card to pay for things, which is painless, if you had to pull out cash and pay for it, you wouldn't spend as much. You just wouldn't spend as much. Sometimes by about 20%. So if you spend $3,000 a month on a credit card, 20% is basically $600 a month not using a credit card. There's really no real advantages to using a credit card. Debit card would be just fine. Cash is even better because you won't spend nearly as much of it. The idea of building your credit, you build credit when you pay your bills. Pay your bills on time, and that's probably going to do more for you than borrowing money from things that you don't want to buy. Okay. Now, many cards you can have different interest rates, so you got to do a lot of shopping. Some of them you're paying 18 to 20%. Some of them are 9% or less. So you got to do some real shopping on the internet. You can do a lot of shopping to see what the differences in costs are going to be. One of the strategies is to transfer the high interest rate from your card to a lower interest rate card, and then paying the same amount and get that debt paid off in half the time. If you're in debt, our goal is to be able to get you out of debt. And the only kind of debt you want is debt that makes you money. And there's not very many of those. Most of the time, you're better off to be more of a cash basis. But if you're going to go to debt, we need it for business debt that makes us money, not consumer debt that costs us money. If you spend money to go to college, you need to say, this is the degree I'm going to get, and this is how much money I'm going to make over the next 20 years to determine if it's worth spending all that extra money. That's one of the problems with school debt, and school debt is not forgivable. So if you have a lot of school debt, college debt, university debt, make sure that you're going to be able to get a job that pays for all of that. Credit card debt, if we take $10,000 in credit card debt and the monthly payment's $183 a month, usually you have to pay about 2% of the outstanding balance. And at that rate, it's going to take you 15 years to pay off the card. If you pay the minimum balance, it could take you 25 years. But over that time frame, you have spent $32,000 on that $10,000 worth of credit card debt. Now, if we simply increase the monthly payment from $183 to $395 and pay that off quicker, we're going to save a lot of money. In this example, you can see that $10,000 worth of purchases at $183 a month on the monthly payments, $22,000 in interest. You're going to pay $32,000 by the time you pay that off over long term. If you increase that to $395 a month, then you're going to drop that interest dramatically. You're only going to pay $3,000, $3,323 in interest for a grand total of $13,000. So the difference is about $19,000 by simply paying it off quicker. The first goal is don't get into credit card debt to begin with, because mathematically it's extremely hard to get out. In this example, you can see that by paying it off quicker, increasing that monthly payment, that you're going to save around $19,000. Now, what's really funny is that millions and millions, billions and billions of dollars are in banks' checking and savings accounts from their clients. You have a checking account or savings account at the bank. The bank is not paying you anything, even if they paid you 1%. They are charged, and you got a credit card at 21%. it's really kind of crazy because they're taking your money that's in your savings account, loaning it back to you on your credit card. And just imagine that. They're taking your money and loaning it back to you when you borrow money on a credit card, if you have money in your savings account. So how long does it take for your credit card debt to double? If you had, it's called the rule of 72, and it's kind of a magical number. If you take the number of 72 and you divide the interest rate into it, that will tell you how long it takes for something to double in value or double in cost. Somebody makes it, somebody earns it. My dad used to say, them that pays it, them that understands it, gets it, them that don't, pays it. And so in this example here, how long does it take for your checking or savings account to double in value? Well, if you're getting 1%, it takes you 72 years. 1 into 72 equals 72 times. If you have an interest rate of 21%, it takes about 3.5 years on your credit card. And this is the way it works, very simple. You take 21 divided into 72, or 3.5. Another easy way to look at that is 21 times 3.5 equals 72. So it takes about 3.4, 3.5 years for a credit card to double in cost. Now, how do you save money on a car? Financial ignorance, auto dealership is going to cost you a lot of money. You hear the term low down, low monthly payment, and you got to have it. Even the cheapest car, $20,000, there's all kinds of things that that the dealer's going to try and sell you. Most car dealerships don't make any money on a new car. They lose money. The only place they make money is in the hidden costs, or the ones that you're trying to bump you to. Most car dealers only make money on their trade-ins. New cars, there's no money in them at all, unless they can sell you something else. It's like going to McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't make any money on the burgers. They make it on the drinks. And so that's why they want to try and upgrade you to a bigger size of fries, or a bigger size, because that's where they're going to make the profits, not in the drink or not in the hamburger. So the same is true in the cars. Hidden costs, the paint, fabric, protector, the undercoating, dealer prep, extended warranties, credit life is a big one. The credit life is that they say, we're going to get you an insurance policy. If you die, then we'll pay the car off. Well, if you're going to do that, just go to a regular insurance company and get a life insurance policy. It'd be a lot less money. Sales tax, financing on the car, a $20,000 car over time becomes a $30,000 decision. The biggest problem is the day you buy a new car and drive it off the lot, it becomes a used car. And used cars go down in value quickly. Depending on the car, you could lose 60 to 80% of its value in 5 to 6 years because it goes down in value so much. And so one of your strategies, if you're going to buy a new car, buy one that you're going to drive until the wheels fall off. Find a great car, and I've had cars for 12, 13, 14 years. I have a car right now that is a 1984 car. It's a Ferrari, so but it's an older car. And I've got a 91 car. I buy incredibly great used cars, or if I do buy a new car, it's one of those cars that I'm going to own for a very long period of time. Finance charges, your goal is to pay for these things and write a check for them. That's your goal. Insurance costs. You have all kinds of insurance: life, health, auto, home, disability. One of the problems is that there are many overlapping coverages. So you really got to check, because you might be having overlapping coverages paying for both. And if you had a problem, they're both not going to pay you. Only one's going to pay you. So we need to do that. The other one's the deductible. Of course, many of you know what the deductible is that if you get into an accident, you have to pay the first amount of money. The more you're willing to risk and pay the more of the first chunk of money, then the lower the payment's going to be. If you say, I'm going to pay the first $2,000 worth of any accident, then your monthly payments are going to go lower. If you're saying, hey, I'm not going to pay any, then your premiums are going to be higher on a monthly basis. There's some insurances you probably should avoid completely. But the big piece is to raise your deductible. Buy term. A lot of people are trying to sell whole life and things like that. For the vast majority of people, you should buy, in my opinion, and again, I'm not telling you what you should do, I'm telling you what I do. We buy term insurance, and then we invest the difference. Your own home, say 20 to 30% on your home. Your home can be the best or worst financial decision you're going to make. you know, a $200,000 home, we're just going to use that for a number. That's someplace in the Midwest, and that's a starter home. That's not much at all. On either coast, it's going to be 5 times that for a starter home, maybe even 10 times that for a decent home, $1 to $2 million. So with this, you're just going to add zeros to the concepts we're teaching you. But on a $200,000 home, if you don't have great credit and interest rates quite a bit higher, you're going to pay $328,000 in interest. So over a 30-year loan, you're going to pay $528,000. Now the key is for you to find a great deal on that property. There's different ways. There's 12 different ways to find property for $180,000 or less. You have to really look, and you might have to put some sweat equity. You might have to do a little bit of fix up to it. But if you did that one simple thing, you bought it for 10% less than what it would have been, you're going to save around $52,000 over the life of that loan, which is huge. So not only did we save the $20,000, but we also saved all the interest that we were going to pay over that time frame. Also, there's different ways that you can save an additional $5,000 on things. You can negotiate on commissions. There's no set fee. You can negotiate on commissions, closing costs, title insurance, inspection fees. You want to be able to really learn about how to save money whenever you're buying or selling property. With good credit, you can reduce your interest rate. If you have bad credit, they're going to charge you a much higher rate because you're not a very good risk. So your goal is to pay off your loans on time, pay your bills on time, set them up automatically so that they come right out of your account and they're paid automatically. So with good credit, you can reduce your interest rates. Now in this example, on that same property, we dropped the price from $200,000 down to $180,000. And if you have bad credit, your interest rate might be as high as 6%, excuse me, 8%. Now the difference is this is 2%. So I know the interest rates have come down lately, but the key on this is the difference between the 8% and the 6%, which is 2%. But in this example here, if you have bad credit, you're going to be paying a much higher rate. And on a $180,000 property with a monthly payment of $1,320, you can see right there in the pink, you're going to pay $295,000 in interest for a grand total of about $475,000. Now, if we can drop that rate by 2%, this is the key, is dropping it by that 2%, then your monthly payment goes down. And you can see in the pink that we're going to save an additional $208,000 in interest for a grand total of about $86,000 that we're going to save in interest over the life of that loan. So that's another way to be able to do it. So you can see by simply saving 1% or 2% on your interest rate by having good credit, that's going to drop another $86,000 off of the cost over the life of that loan. Now, the other thing that most people need to do is they need to pay their house off early. Your goal is to have a free and clear home. The concept with that is most people are very disciplined. The only asset they really have is their home. It's going to keep stability in your home if you can have this thing free and clear. So would you like to pay off your house in half the time and save? Well, by doing that, we need to increase the payment on it. If we can increase the payment from about $1,000 up to $1,500 a month, that's a higher monthly payment, but it has a huge impact. You'll see over on the far right-hand side, it says 30 years. So if we drop that loan from 8% down to 6%, and then from 6%, our goal is to pay it off quicker. If we pay it off over 30 years, you can see in the top blue right there, the light blue, that you're going to pay $208,000 in interest. But if we paid it off in 15 years, then we're only going to pay about $93,000 in interest. You're going to save an additional $115,000. Now, in some of the next classes we get into, we're going to get into real estate, and this is just about your own home. But I've bought millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate, and for investment purposes. And the strategies are the same. We just add zeros to it. But in this example, if we can pay it off quicker, we're going to save an additional $115,000 in interest alone. So if we did all three of those things, that's going to make a huge difference. Beforehand, $200,000 property, to just buy like everybody else does, you're going to pay $528,000 in total payments. But if we do it our way, you buy it for less, we reduce the interest rate by having better credit, good credit. I'm going to teach you strategies to do that. And you pay it off in half the time, you're going to save $250,000. Now, I bought millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate, and we use the same strategies on all the real estate that we do, okay? Now give yourself a tax break. One of the things you need to do is you need to start a small business. And there's a couple reasons for starting small businesses. One is because of the taxes. You can get a tax cut by owning a business. You know, you probably paid a lot of money in taxes last year. The government likes people that have businesses. If we could reduce your taxes by 15 to 20%, would that make a big difference? And there are things that you can legally deduct, everyday items. There's two reasons really to start a small business. One is to cut your taxes, and two is to earn extra income. The challenge we have is that just working at a regular job, it takes about 5 months of salary just to pay your taxes. You got to work 5 months just to pay the taxes that you owe. Back in 1928, it was only about 1 month. 47, it was about a little over about almost 2.5 months to do it. Now it takes 5 months just to pay your taxes. And there's all kinds of taxes. You might think, well, I'm not paying much in federal taxes, but there's all kinds of other taxes: housing tax, property taxes, food and beverage, transportation, gas, medical, entertainment. They're hitting you every way that you can. So our goal is to figure out how to reduce that taxes in everything that we do. And one of those ways with a small business. Now, one of the things with a small business is that we can take some legitimate deductions, because most of you should have a small business. I have many, many small businesses. And our goal is to be able to shift some of our personal expenses into a business expense and actually have a business that makes us money. So right now, you know, we're going to try and take our taxes, reduce our taxes, and without savings, let's push it over onto the investment side. Let's get more money over to that investment side. And you can save thousands of dollars a year by shifting income to a lower tax bracket. Now, the way you do that is by hiring your children. Now, the importance of this is that you know, if you only give your kid one thing, money or knowledge, what are you going to give them? You're going to give them knowledge. Make them earn the money. But if you can give them an experience to go with it, then that's priceless. And so we want to hire our kids. Now, to do this, you basically have to put them on some kind of a payroll, and you get a W-2, and hire them. This does a couple of things. One, we're going to teach them how to work. Number two is we're going to shift some of that income. Instead of mom and dad taking all that income and paying it at a higher bracket, we're going to shift that with the kids, so that the kids are going to be part of that. And it's a great way to start working on your estate planning, because the government's going to come after your money one way or another. State taxes right now, sometimes they've gone away with the state taxes. When they need money, they go back to it. But we want to be smart about our taxes. So there's Roth was one of the ways we can put money in there for that tax-free at a young age and then have it grow. Just to give you an idea of the power of long-term, we're going to take an individual that's 15 years of age, and we're going to put $200 a month in there for 4 years. And you can see from the age 15 to age 18, $200 a month, and then we're just going to stop and let it roll, let it go. Now again, this is using a very aggressive 10%, but the numbers are going to be similar. If it's going to be lower, you're going to see that it's going to make a big difference on how we do this. And the whole key on this is starting early. Your goal is to start your kids early. But if you did that, it's $1 million by the time they're age 65. Now the problem is $1 million isn't going to be enough. Again, this isn't the concept that you're going to have $1 million. The concept is that we're going to try and teach by experience and knowledge and with money. So we want to get them involved. If you wait till you're age 20, you have to do it for 7 years. And then you just let it go. But it's going to roll for about 40 years. And that's why it grows, and it's not $1 million. But if you wait until you're age 30, you're going to have to do it for 36 years. And then because you don't have that compounding effect, that long-term compounding effect, you won't have $1 million. You only have around $789,000, which isn't nearly enough. So that's the key. Now, the step number 3 is to increase your net worth with a small business, real estate, and the stock market. And that's the third step that you've got to do. So what do you want? Streams of income or chunks of cash? I like both, and many of you should take both of those. So as you look at your streams of income, most people have a job. We want to add some investments to that, a small business to that, and our goal is to create some positive cash flow, which will increase our net worth. Now, if we want to build our net worth, real estate is a great way to be able to do that, and other kinds of investments. Every investment you can make quick cash with, and you can also make streams of income. And real estate, you can buy and sell and flip it, make quick cash. Small business, you can sell something, make quick cash. And most of these real estate, you can buy long-term real estate for rental, so it's going to produce some positive cash flow along the way. It probably won't create any in the beginning, but it will over time. So we want to do both. We want to increase that. We want to work on our health, our wealth, and our multiple streams of income. Okay. So the goal is to be able to get enough of this coming in from your investments, your small business, and your real estate, is that you can quit your job and live off your investments. That's what my dad taught me when I was 14 years of age. Now, what items go down in value and what items go up in value? As you know, computers go down in value. Electronics, clothes, cars, the day you buy them, they're going to be worth less money than they are in next year, the year after that, or years after that. Investments that go up in value are real estate and stock. They appreciate in value. And those are the kind of things that we want to buy for long term. So how long does it take for real estate or stock to double in value? Well, we're going to go back to the rule of 72 again here, and we have to come up with some rates. So the rule of 72 again is a magical number. If you take the number 72 and you take the rate of return, in this case at 3%, 3 into 72 goes 24 times, or basically 3 times 24 equals 72. So it takes 24 years for it to double. Long-term real estate, some of it's gone up at about 3%. It's been taking 20, 25 years for it to double. In some markets, it's done that very quickly. It's done that in 12 years. Boom, much faster. And in some markets, it's gone up 10%, where it's doubled in 7 years. But over a longer period of time, you take 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Some of them have gone up really fast, have kind of slowed down. But the rule of 72, the concept is very simple. You've got to invest in things that go up in value versus things that go down in value. We're going to take an example of a $200,000 house. You can see in the yellow there, if it appreciates at 3% a year, it's going to take 24 years for it to double. So in year 1, it's worth $200,000. In year 25, it's worth $400,000. In year 39, it's worth $800,000. If the values are going up faster, more people are moving into the area. It's forcing the appreciation. A $200,000 property that's going up at 6% a year takes 12%. It's 12 years. By year 13, it's worth $400,000. In year 25, it's worth $800,000. 10%, you got a $200,000 property. Year 8 is worth $400,000. Again, year 8 and year 15, it's worth $800,000. Same thing with stock. $500,000 worth of stock at 3% takes 24 years. 6% it takes 12 years, and at 10% takes 7.2 years. Now let's put it all together. You can see that we've taken a lot of the expenses that are over on the right-hand side, the living, auto, and mortgage and taxes. And our goal is to get as much as we can over on the other side in our investments as money comes in. And so we're going to create a game plan. With that game plan, we need to know your age, your financial freedom age, what kind of investments you have, and what kind of rate of return they're getting, and anything that's monthly that you're adding to it. So in this example, just to show you what happens on here, we're going to use Jane Doe. She's 45. She wants to retire in about 20 years. Then she has about $50,000 in equity and invests an additional $100 a month. So she's going to start with $50,000. She's putting in $100 a month or $1,200 a year, and just letting it grow at that at 10%. Again, 10% is very aggressive, but it's kind of easy for us to figure. So that puts her at $372,000. Now, if we can do a couple things, let's look at the conservative one. If we can figure out how to take that $50,000 that she's in, add that $100 a month, financial defense, let's save some money on taxes. Let's save money in where we're spending the money. So we add another $200 a month. But more importantly, we go on the offense. We start a small business. We create a network marketing business that adds money every month. You can see we're going to add $14,000 a year on that. That's the conservative one right there. So if we add that all up together, that's going to make a huge difference over the life of her financial program. She's going to have about $1.4 million. You get very, very aggressive down to the bottom. Let's say she starts at the $50,000. She's still doing that same $100 a month. But we find ways to save taxes. She creates some real big businesses, gets depreciation on real estate, other things like that. She gets another business that's kicking out cash to her. That we put aside. We're putting that all into our long-term saving and investing. And we do that for a long period of time, where you can see that by the time she's at her financial freedom age, that we've increased that dramatically. So if you do what you're doing right now, you're going to have not very much. If we can add some offense and defense to it, with these other things, you can see that you can have quite a bit more there. Now, this is the real goal is to share the wealth. You need to pass it on. My dad taught us kids about money. He taught us how to do it, and we did it with him. He gave us the experience. He's taught his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids. And every one of the kids, grandkids are all going to make and spend $1 million in a lifetime. And the goal is to be able to figure out how to be able to do that. So your real goal is to share the wealth, to pass it on, to teach others, because they're all going to be managing millions of dollars. So that's your real goal, and I'm going to ask you to be able to help us with that. Again, if you could only give your child one thing, money or knowledge, what would you give them? You would give them the knowledge. But if you can add experience with it, then that's going to make a huge difference. So take action, make it happen. This is Tom Painter. Thanks for being in our class, and we'll see you in one of our future classes. Thanks.